Right now in Manhattan federal court, a sentencing hearing is underway for Sean Diddy Combs. He's the music mogul facing up to 20 years in prison on charges related to prostitution. CB Cotton, she is there at the Manhattan federal court, and we get to you, CB, for an update on what's going on inside right now.
Hey, Dana, good morning. Well, droves of media are here to watch as Sean Diddy Combs, once one of the most powerful men in music, now begs a judge for mercy. The proceedings are officially underway. The judge just told the defense team he'll allow Diddy's children to speak. Well, we're also expecting to see this nearly 12-minute long video showing Diddy in and out of the spotlight over the years. It's compiled like a campaign ad, and we see and hear Diddy motivating school children, visiting loved ones in the hospital, praying, and spending moments at home with his 7 kids who sing their father's praises at the end. Diddy also wrote a nearly 4-page letter to the judge, marking the first time he's made any substantial comments on the case. In it, he says he was, quote, reborn behind bars, and he offers an explanation for his ways, writing, quote, I lost my way. I got lost in my journey, lost in the drugs and the excess. My downfall was rooted in my selfishness. I have been humbled and broken to my core. Diddy also apologized to former girlfriend R&B singer Cassie Ventura, who testified that she endured years of physical and emotional abuse from the rapper, saying Diddy made her feel forced to have sex with male escorts while drugged. She wrote to the judge ahead of today saying, quote, while the defense attorneys at trial suggested that my time with Combs was akin to a great modern love story, nothing could be further from the truth. Her note, one of several from other accusers who wrote to the judge as prosecutors prepare to argue that even though the rapper was acquitted of the most serious charges, the sentence should reflect the evidence of violence. Take this, for example. During the trial, prosecutors played that brutal hotel surveillance video showing Diddy beating Cassie. Prosecutors want a sentence of at least 11 years. Defense attorneys, on the other hand, argue the sentence should be no more than 14 months, which could allow Diddy to walk away on time served before the end of the year. A lot to watch for today. Dana, back over to you.
All right, CB, so can you give us an atmosphere of what it's like outside of the court?
Dana, it looks a lot like it did this summer in July. The whole block is filled with cameras, and it's not just members of official broadcasting cable channels that we know. There are also TikTokers here, YouTube streamers here, Twitch streamers. We've seen a couple clashes this morning also with police, people coming up to the courthouse trying to cause agitation based on how they feel about the case so far. Out here, there's definitely an ambiance. Half of the crowd would like to see Diddy walk away from behind bars before the end of the year. The other half wants to see him serve a substantial time in jail, more time in jail. We also heard from high-profile attorney Gloria Allred this morning, who addressed members of the media here, and she spoke specifically about some of Diddy's accusers, and she said their fears and their concerns about Diddy seeking revenge are very valid. So lots of commotion out here, and it feels just like it did in July when the trial was well underway.
CB Cotton, thank you very much.
So we've asked Paul to stick around with us. Paul Morrow's back, and hello again. I'm reading the first email that came from our producer inside the courtroom. This could go on for a while. He's reporting that the suggestion is that the judge will allow 2 of his 3 kids to speak, and maybe the Reverend and several others. And Diddy may talk as well, and I would imagine that would be the key person.
Yes,
the key voice.
He's going to allocute, as they say, which is address the court directly, and that's an opportunity for him to not only own what he did, but then essentially plead his case relative to his sentencing. All of that will happen before the sentencing. One mini drama that seems to be developing is that it was widely reported that Mia, his assistant, was going to be one of the people who would speak, and it was going to be a victim impact statement. And that is to say, she was going to come in and talk about how Diddy's behavior negatively impacted her life, and obviously that mitigates towards a higher sentence. Now the reporting seems to be that she's not going to speak. Now, just so we understand, she is not relevant to the 2 crimes that he's convicted of, okay? So she could have been relevant in the larger scheme that the government had brought, but That didn't go that way. So as a result, it's a little tenuous as to how connected to the entire thing she really is. That's not the standard. It's up to the judge. The judge can let her speak. But if she comes in as a victim impact statement and says things that are negative about him, he has the opportunity to push back. He has an opportunity to give his rejoinder. Consequently, now it looks like, and I don't know if that's why, but as a result, it looks now like she's not going to speak. And so I don't know if we're going to get a victim impact statement from anybody. All of the testimony may be on Sean Combs' side.
Could you help us with a walk down memory lane just for a moment about the 2 crimes he was convicted of was not what the government was trying to get him on.
Right.
And so there are people out there saying, well, he was actually really only convicted of much lesser crimes.
Yeah.
So should he have to spend all of this time in jail?
No, you're 100% right. So look, I've been a defender of this case to a degree. They really reached for the stars. They went at him on a RICO, which is a very tough thing to get. But that said, at least they did that, because all of the state charges that could have been brought against him in various places, including out in L.A., those never happened. So from where I sit, more power to the Southern District for at least having tried. But that said, I think that they really, really went high level on this thing. They didn't get the RICO charge. They didn't get the heavier charges. Ultimately, he only got convicted on essentially the Mann Act, which is bringing prostitutes across state lines. Generally, you're not going to take much of a hit for that. But in the larger context of what happened, the judge decided to remand him and not let him out. A lot of people felt like once that came back that way, they were going to say, the judge was going to say, okay, sentencing in a couple of months, Mr. Combs, you're free. No, he held on to him. That's a bad sign for Team Combs, because when it comes to sentencing, while the prosecution is asking for 11 years, the defense is asking for time served. He's already been in for a year. I think that the judge now, because he held on to him, the signal is he's going to get something.
Okay, so each count carries a maximum of 10 years in prison. He faces up to a total of 20. I mean, do you want to play a guessing game here if you've been locked up for a year? In all likelihood, he's not going to walk today, regardless of what anyone says about him, or regardless of what he says about himself today.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree.
What is it?
Yeah, I'm inclined to. All right, so, look, this is pure speculation. I'm taking a shot. I'm thinking he's already got a year in the bank. The judge is not going to just let him out because it looks penny-ante. It looks like he held on to him somewhat capriciously and now lets him out for an extra couple of months. I think that the judge will give him something. However, it's not going to be anywhere near the 11 years that the prosecution not even asking for anything more than 11. If I had to guess, he's going to split the baby a little bit on the low end. I would think 3 to 4 years.
5 years with time served?
Maybe 4. How about that? All right, what do I get?
Can I get one more question in?
Give me a drink if it goes that way.
Do you, so he puts out this statement saying, I've been humbled, I've apologized, I've been broken.
Yeah.
Do you believe that? And will that matter?
Yeah, there's an old saying among prosecutors, which is a lot of defendants find religion at the jailhouse door, So I'm sure this statement that he delivered, while it may be very heartfelt and all of that was heavily lawyered, I'm sure there was a whole team that wrote it. So he has to do it. He has to advocate for himself. Of course, judges are used to seeing this kind of thing. I'm not so sure it's going to have all that much impact, nor am I very sure that him bringing in his family to advocate for him is going to really matter much. The judge knows what occurred. The judge has heard the testimony. The judge knows what he feels. He knows what was presented in court as evidence, and he held on to him once. That tells me, in my opinion, likely a couple of years here.
Thank you, Paul. Good stuff. We'll bring you back if we get an answer.
10-4.
When we get an answer.
10-4, I love it.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.